Buckle up, excellence junkies, because this podcast is definitely for you. Welcome to Rock-A-Fuel. Do you wish that you could surround yourself with people that love to kick ass just like you? Well, come to my party, baby, and meet some of the brightest stars in the entrepreneurial galaxy, because it is my mission to give these entrepreneurs a platform to declare what they are on this planet to accomplish and to show you why they are rocket fuel. And we're live! Woohoo! All right, you Rocketeers out there. This is an amazing episode that we just came off of, and this is my teaser for you, because have any of you guys ever gotten to the point where you're just so down and you're watching somebody else like have fun, like laugh, or even possibly do something ridiculous, and you're like, how could they do that? And you find yourself being critical, but then all of a sudden kind of wondering, like, I wish I could kind of do that. I wish that was in my genes or whatever. Well, we are here speaking to the king of ridiculosity, Lucas Steeves, whose mission is to help people infuse ridiculous activity and just joy in their lives, because it's been transformational for him. So, Lucas, I want to thank you so much for you joining us and for you sharing your amazing stories. Tell us a little bit about why ridiculosity is so powerful for you.
Well, I'll give you the quick version. If you go and listen to the long version, it's a really great story. But it kind of started back in 2017 when I was on the verge of homelessness. My business was failing. I was completely broke. I had very few friends. I weighed over 350 pounds. My health was completely out of control, and my life was just in a really desperate state. I had been battling mental health issues at that point for almost a decade. And I was really at that stage of, I just want to give up. You know, I watched all these people around me who were running these successful businesses, and they had lots of friends, and they were going out on the weekends and doing things. And I was that person that you just described, sitting there thinking, well, it's great for them, but it's not going to work for me. It's just, I've tried everything. You know, how many times have you heard that? How many times have you thought that? And that's how I felt. And then a number of things happened. And like I said, you can hear the whole story in the longer version of this episode, but something happened that triggered me. And I put a date on the calendar that was like, if I don't have my act together by this date, I'm done. I decided I was going to kill myself.
I want to pause here, because, you know, we do get into this more in the episode. I want to thank you for sharing this, but this was really, really powerful to get to the point where it's like, okay, I'll give myself a deadline. If I can't change things, then that's it. And then I think because you're just so positive and energetic, I want it to pause, because I want it to sink in, right? And I thank you. Like, I'm so happy that you're at this point where energetically you can say these things, but I want to make sure that people don't lose out at the fact of, like, this was hard. This is hard times. And so you went through this transformation. So what happens? Like, you set this date, and what do you do to attempt to make this change?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, people look at me now and they often think like, oh, you've just always been this way. It comes naturally, but it has been a lot of hard work. And I hesitate to use the word magic, but there's a magic that happens when you see the end date of anything. You know, when you have a deadline and you have to get a big project done, you can work really hard the night before. And the crazy thing is, life is the same way. And when I looked at my calendar and I saw that little red dot, because I just put a little red dot, I didn't want anybody to know what the mark meant. And when I would look at the calendar and I would see that little red dot, and I would count the days, I would count back the days that I had left to live if I didn't get my act together. And there's an incredible amount of motivation when you're staring at the day that you think you're going to die.
Yeah.
And at your own hand, no less. Like,
right.
And so it motivated me to pick up and start doing things that I didn't necessarily normally do on a regular basis. And I started going places that I didn't normally go to, and interacting with people that I didn't normally interact with, and taking risks that I didn't normally take. And it put me on this really cool pathway that ultimately resulted in me reconnecting with my inner child and reconnecting with the person I was back when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, having lots of fun and living what I considered at that point to have been the peak of my life's experience.
Right.
And when I realized that connection, all of a sudden everything else in my life started to improve. Suddenly I had friends to go hang out with on the weekends, and I had things on my calendar that I was really looking forward to doing. And my business was doing substantially better than it ever had before. And there was all these things that just started falling into place. And what it was that I remembered that in order to have fun, you have to have fun. And sometimes in this crazy world that we live in, society tells us that having fun is not acceptable. You're not supposed to dance down the street. You're not supposed to walk up to a random stranger and scream in their face, "Hey, there you are, I recognize you," and then run away. You're not supposed to do stuff like that. You're not supposed to go and knock on your neighbor's door and say, "Hey man, can I borrow your car? Mine's dirty." You're not supposed to do those things. But they're a lot of fun. Yesterday I posted a poster in my neighborhood that said, "I'm missing a goldfish. He answers to the name Frank. Please don't chase, he'll become aggressive." And I posted them all over the neighborhood just because it was fun and it made me smile. And doing stuff like that and ridiculous things opened up all these doors for me. And ultimately it got me comfortable with being myself again. And when I got comfortable with being myself again, I got comfortable with living as myself in the world, and I got comfortable with just everything. I got comfortable with the discomfort of life, because
yes,
if you're an entrepreneur, if you're other entrepreneurs out there, life in general, even if you're not an entrepreneur, gets uncomfortable sometimes. And the more comfortable you can be with that discomfort, the easier it is to handle it. And the more fun you can have. And you also realize that everybody in the world responds to you differently when you're having fun. When you're all serious and stressed out and down and blue all the time, people don't give you energy back. People just don't. They want to protect their own energy from you, and it's all sad, and it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry you're feeling so crappy and it'll get better, don't worry." But it's all really negative, low energy. But when you come at the world being ridiculous, the world comes at you with energy.
Yes.
And it pumps you up and it gets you excited and it pushes you forward. And it's this incredibly powerful thing. And it's just a whole lot of fun. And that's my ultimate mission in life in general, is to just have fun and make other people's lives better while I do it. And this ridiculosity concept is exactly the key to doing that. It's exactly the way to have a lot of fun in your day-to-day life. It's exactly the key to stretching your comfort zone and getting comfortable with those uncomfortable things in life. And just reconnecting with you and yourself and who you are.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know that you consider yourself a mental health advocate because of this transformation that it had in your life. Although all of us, you don't have to be at deep depression state or suicidal state to benefit from this. This is why you were mentioning in the longer episode that you even love, as a speaker, you even love speaking in front of youth groups, right? Younger people, to help them understand that they don't have to lose this sense of ridiculosity, right? They don't have to feel like, well, tell us, what's your message to the youth?
Well, yeah, I love speaking to young people, because young people have not yet lost that sense of being ridiculous and that sense of exploring. I watch children all the time run around with sticks, and in their mind, those sticks are not sticks. They're guns or swords or broomsticks that they're flying on playing Quidditch. Like they have no problem acting ridiculous in public. And most of the time when they're doing that, they're having a lot of fun.
Yes.
But at some point in the the journey to growing up.
Yeah.
Some adult comes along and says, sit down and be quiet, or don't stand out, or why would you ever start a business doing that? That's ridiculous. You've got to go and get a degree and go to college. It's the safe route. Like, at some point, the world puts the mute button on us.
Yes.
And there are very select few people who have been able to overcome that. I think of people like Richard Branson and like people that do really ridiculous things in the world, and they have a lot of fun and they're very successful. And
yes.
And I like to talk to youth because they haven't yet lost that. And I can come in as an adult who's experienced and I could say, don't believe them when they tell you you have to grow up, because it's a trap. You don't have to grow up. Getting old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. And it's the key to life. I swear to goodness, it is.
Oh my goodness! Life. But the other thing is that you were talking about how, you know, in our previous talk, your desire to really also connect with younger men that are kind of feeling this burden, because you were reflecting upon that experience. So tell us a little bit more about the men that you often speak to and inspire.
Well, see, that's the thing, and that's where the real passion and drive that gets me out of bed in the morning comes from, is these younger men that are in their mid-20s, early 30s. Because Wanda, I have never even one time told the story of what I went through and not had somebody write to me and say, I was going through that myself, and tell me their story. And when that started to happen, I realized there was this incredible power in telling the story of what I went through to other men that were in my position, because when they heard the story, they suddenly felt empowered to share their story. And sometimes just saying it out loud is all it takes to shift it. And men are very much overlooked in the mental health system. You know, as much as women are overlooked for many physical health problems, men are overlooked for many mental health problems. And I believe that we as a brotherhood have to stand together, and we have to tell each other when we're struggling, and that it's okay to be struggling, because that's one of the biggest things, right? Society's messaging for men is you've got to do it on your own. You've got to be tough. You've got to man up. You can't possibly ask for help. But when I tell people about what happened when I asked for help, and when I tell people about what happened when I accepted the fact that I couldn't do life on my own, and when I made the decision to overcome the stuff I was going through, it unlocks this power in other men to share their own stories and to feel more comfortable and to feel less alone. So that's really my drive, is because I never want anything I went through to have been in vain. You know, I never want to feel like a waste. And it was hell. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was the worst year of my life.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a waste, because the fact that I went through that means that other guys don't have to go through that. I can share the story, and I went through it on their behalf. And now I can teach them the way out before they even have to get into it. And I think by doing that, we can have a generation of more present and capable fathers, and we can have more emotionally available men in the world, and we can have just ultimately more powerful human beings, because we can deal with that old stigma around mental health and realize that it's just part of life and there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. Well, I mean, we get so much deeper into this. I invite the audience, honestly, everybody should listen to our longer episode, but definitely if you're a young male, you connect with Lucas, you want to hear more of his story. If I also call out, honestly, to those leaders of organizations, it may be youth groups, it may be fraternities, it may be trade associations, it may be just any of these groups where you have the opportunity to actually inspire your team and your organization, and invite Lucas to come and be a speaker. It's just going to be transformational for everybody, and what a wonderful gift you can give to your team. But Lucas did put together something for us, for our Rocket Fuel listeners, because you know that we always want to be able to extend the impact, right? If you're going to be inspired by Lucas, you need something. What do I do next? So he actually put together these 7 things to do to stretch your comfort zone, right? So that you could just start practicing everyday ridiculosity, because it's very common for people to be like, all right, so you're telling me to be ridiculous. Like, what does that mean, right? It's like block, block, block. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to pull out your cell phone, guys. And if you are in the US, you're going to text this catchword to 411321. That's the number. And it's going to be RF for rocket fuel dash ridiculosity. And I'm going to spell it since it's not a word. It's RIDICULOSITY. RF dash ridiculosity. It's also going to be in the show notes to 411321. And you're going to receive these 7 things to do to stretch your comfort zone. It's right here. I have the handy dandy PDF here, right? Make sure to provide your email address. That's how we get it to you. And then if you're listening outside of the US, we love you and we want you to get this as well. So text it to +1 909 741. Sorry, +1 909 741 1321. And of course, the catchword is RF-ridiculosity. Don't forget to provide that email address. Any last minute kind of messages for the audience, except for listen to the longer episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the first one. And I mean, you're probably sitting there right now thinking texting a word that doesn't even exist to a phone number I don't even know feels like a ridiculous thing to do. Do it. Really, I promise it will change your life. Like, go and do something today that makes you feel ridiculous. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Just start doing it, because I promise you it will make you more friends and more money and have more fun. And it's just going to change your life in ways you can't even imagine.
I love it. Thank you, Lucas Steeves, for joining us and giving us your rocket fuel. I hope that you, Lucas, and our audience have a rockin' day. Have a good one, guys. Bye. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Look, every one of our episodes is boosted by a value-packed keyword called a catchword. Yeah. This allows our audiences to text to receive even more value from our guests. So take advantage of that great value. And if you share your expertise by guesting on podcasts or TV or speaking in front of live or digital audiences, then you're leaving anonymous fans behind. So go get a catchword at catchwords.com, KETCH words.com, and use podcast20 as a promo code for 20% off your setup fee. Look, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Rocket Fuel podcast so you never miss your jolt of rocket fuel. Until next time, adios.